June 25th, 2025. It was a big day for everyone at the company. We launched our latest phone, the Fairphone, and we invited journalists, influencers, and you to have a look at our new phone. Back then, we didn't know it would go on to win the IF Design Award, but let's take a step back and have a look at everything that happened before the launch. Because, and well, this is a well-kept secret within the industry, phones don't just appear out of thin air. There's people behind it that have come up with and developed the idea of the phone. And there are a lot of steps along the way that can go wrong. We've made a 3-part series about everything that happened behind the scenes when we developed the Fairphone. And this video is all about the hardware of the Fairphone itself. We'll talk about the design philosophy behind the Fairphone.
Some people may think that everything in the product that we design is 100% our choice.
The details you might have missed.
So this used to stretch a lot when you actually pull the finger loop, and it would look like it's gonna get ripped off in a second.
And once again, we asked Mika, what happened to the headphone jack? But let's start here. How do you actually begin with designing a phone?
We start with the insights that we have from the community and from previous phones. Asks from the community that actually made it in Generation 6 are things like the size of the phone, so that was very important, and the weight of the phone.
You really start by understanding the user needs. You go out, you have conversations, you do research, you figure out exactly what the needs are that need to be addressed in this product, and you come up with a vision. How is this product going to meet those needs and really delight your customers?
So the first step is figuring out what you want the product to be. And a huge part of it is also how the phone looks.
I think in general, the main philosophy is having a simple design that shows you and tells you a lot is possible. Simplicity is a big thing, especially with the new branding and the new approach we have in general to design, including the graphics inside the phone, for example, the text underneath the battery, like so many details.
We wanted to go away from showing things exploding, but something that you can rely on, that always stays together. It's not going to break, it's not going to fail.
Probably you get different answers when you ask different people on that. I'll give you my answer. So if you look back in the other phones that we have made in the past, we've gone, I would say, up and down in the acts of being more unique or being more like other phones. And let me explain that a little bit. Some years back, when we started to be really serious about being, for example, in shops with operators, it was hard to make design decisions that would make our phone very unique, because we were always wondering, like, okay, if we are so unique, if we are so different, will people buy us actually? So for some years we tried to get into the norm, I would say, right? Like try to get into what people would expect from a phone in general. With Generation 6, we had the confidence that we could actually make the difference. So we were confident enough that we could come into the market with a design that was slightly different than what people would expect at the beginning. I'm going to mention like the Lime button or, for example, the accessories. And I think that was a good step, and that was a bold step. I think nobody regrets about making that step.
We've always worked under the motto, if you can't open it, you don't own it. And that's why I'm here with a device where the back is off and I've got a screwdriver in my hand and I can get really in there and take the whole thing apart, put it back together. And the thing that's interesting about the Gen 6 is that we've really extended that into the accessories. And so we're not just using modularization for repairability, but really using it for personalization, and that you can start working with these different forms to achieve something that really fits your lifestyle.
We've been able quite successfully, I think, like to integrate the accessories in the design of the phone and make them feel less as an afterthought, but more like an integrated part of the design of the phone. That's a very important point of the design philosophy, because it brings that modularity also to the whole phone.
The screws is a nice part as well, it's a nice touch, which brings a bit the concept of repairability, but it's not so strong as you need to open this every day.
You don't need to open it every day, of course, but at some point you probably will. For example, take the battery. All batteries degrade over time, so after 2-3 years, you'll probably need to replace it. That you can replace it in the first place is important to us, not only because we believe in the right to repair, but also because it makes it possible for you to keep using the same device for a really long time. So we're really proud of what we've achieved with this. A decade ago, we made the first ever smartphone that went on to receive a 10 out of 10 repairability score from iFixit. And today, we're still the only company to achieve this. Now, of course, it's not easy to design the most repairable and modular phone out there. And there are tough decisions to make.
One of the hardest parts of making a phone that is as repairable as possible is this triangle between how watertight the phone is, how big the battery it is, and how big the whole envelope of the phone is, so the complete volume, right? So if you want to have a phone that is very small, it's very difficult to make it modular. If you want to have a phone that has a very big battery, it's also very difficult to make it modular. If you want to have a phone that you can literally submerge in water and keep it there 30 minutes, which is, I still don't understand why people would want to do that, then it's also very difficult to make it modular. So you need to find the balance between all these things. And we wanted Generation 6 to be smaller than Fairphone 5 because we knew that people wanted a smaller phone, but we also wanted to increase the battery capacity. So you already have like two parts that are making it modular complex. In terms of water tightness, so it's IP55, which makes it weatherproof. So for us and for the type of customers that we're selling our phones, we think that's very good. So it's all these elements together that makes it complex.
And despite this complexity, with the Fairphone Gen 6, we made the device smaller and increased its battery life to around 2 days of mixed use. So what's the secret?
In this time, we chose for a reliable chipset with enough energy efficiency to take you through the whole day. With the battery we chose, the combination of the chipset we chose, I think we reached one of the most energy efficient smartphones of the year for the size of battery we have. So everybody is always comparing just milliamp hours on paper without knowing that maybe our phone is more efficient than another phone that has 5,200 milliamp hours. This chipset will not be focused for people that is a hard player that is always in the top games playing all day, but it's a chipset that you can use for a normal day commuting, normal day social media. I think this is a good balance of chipset that we chose.
When we have all these pieces of the puzzle put together, in theory, right, this is all on paper, then we start actually the development.
And that's a lot of technical trade-offs, a lot of design decisions, a lot of coordination with different partners, technical partners, supply chain partners.
When we start that, there's very little room for maneuver, right? So then we have a plan and that's what we are going to do. And then during the development, we have, I'm going to say, a lot of things, right? Like from prototyping, software development, like working with external agencies for some parts of the design of the phone, or Fairphone Moments, for example, in Generation 6. So all these different trajectories come kind of parallelly towards the same goal, which is having everything ready for the moment of launch.
But in all this chaos, there are a lot of things that can go, let's say, a little bit differently than you might hope.
We wanted a compact phone, but the display we wanted to use at the beginning was not available anymore, and changing that changes the shape and the conception of the whole phone.
Some people may think that everything in the product that we design is 100% our choice. And I would say in the end, with Generation 6, it is like that. But it is difficult to make sure that you can find the components that will support those choices, right? So for example, with the screen, indeed, that was very difficult to find and to come to agreements to get that 6.3 display.
But at the end, last second, we were able to find a very good display with the dimensions we were aiming for.
So the phone I'm holding in my hand right now, it almost didn't happen. But we're so happy that it did because it makes for a really nice look and feel.
The way we speak as a brand, the way we use the colors as a brand, it's all changed. It was quite a big step up for us to change the brand in a really, really simple and a really mature way. And then we did our best to actually get the product to that level as well. Because I think if you compare now with the older products, you can see that it's quite a big step up in design as well.
So these different accessories all have different form factors, different functions, different materials, and yet they all sort of speak the same language and are well aligned with each other to become part of one ecosystem.
We had like so many colors in the beginning. Obviously, we wanted to do all of them, a lot of different accessories, but then the hardest decisions are which one to keep, which one to not keep. And like a lot of stuff also goes wrong throughout. So we have a lot of samples. So I'm usually running around with samples on my hands, which is really fun, but also, there are a lot of complex pieces. Even the accessories are just coming with a lot of details that you actually don't really realize while using it, but we actually have to think beforehand before you actually hold them and use them. It's really, really tiny, but on the finger loop where we have the logo on, so this used to stretch a lot when you actually pull the finger loop, and it would have these weird gaps around it, and it would look like it's gonna get ripped off in a second. And details like the thickness of this tiny circular piece, these things all hold the accessories together, and you actually don't really think about it, but once you hold it, it would just look really slouchy, really let's say rushed. And then these things actually took really long time to work on. So yeah, I think I would say even the finishing of the material around it, it's one of the details, The colors as well, a lot of thought goes into colors. It's more than searching for trends, because we want you to keep the phone as long as possible. So we want to have colors that you actually really will like and enjoy for a long time. So yeah, a lot of, let's say, organized chaos in the background. But yeah, it's worth it, I think. So, look at the screen. I'm obsessed with it, but I'm also biased, but let me know.
Yeah, I have to say that one of the things that surprised me was I've never really been a finger loop user myself. But I got at some point a DVT sample in my hand with a finger loop on it, and I actually quite liked it. And it was really convenient when I was running for the train and trying to look up the train timetable at the same time. So that was a surprise for me that this is an accessory that actually fits my life.
Most proud of, I think, looking at the phone is, I think not everybody notices, but the line where the switch finishes is where the line of the upper cover starts. So everything is connected in this design to make one entire line of communication, you can say, in your hands.
So now that you know a little bit about how we made the Fairphone, let's dive a little bit deeper, because there are 3 questions that you keep asking on social media. Before getting into the other 2, let's just start with this one. Why are the bezels not perfectly symmetrical?
There is always a challenge to fit all the electronics. And in our case, if we want to keep it repairable, we want to leave extra space to be able to repair it. We can compress everything in the PCB, but then you will not be able to repair a part of that PCB. So we need to leave still enough space between the components to make it still repairable. We optimize the antenna design, and that also allowed us to compress a bit the bezels in the design.
So would you rather have a screen that you can replace in 5 minutes or perfectly symmetrical bezels? But let's be honest, they're not that big or that uneven, are they? Anyway, there's another question that keeps coming up online. Why does the Fairphone not support wireless charging? And will it in the future?
In the past, wireless charging was just not efficient. So the amount of charge that you get out of the energy that you put into charging was very low, much lower than a normal charger. That is not the case anymore. So there are new protocols with wireless charging where the efficiency has increased a lot. That efficiency is still lower than a normal charger, but let's say it has become more acceptable now. So that's T2, so that's the magnetic connection actually positions the phone and the charger in the most ideal position so that the efficiency is kept very high. With the other protocols, like if you would put the phone slightly not in the right position, then it would charge, but it would charge at lower efficiency. So that has improved, and that's great. With Generation 6, there's different things that come into play. So T2 is still relatively, I know it's not new, but it's I'm going to say relatively new technology that still has not made it widely available for companies that are smaller like we are. So the supply chain of that type of wireless charging is at this point difficult for us. I think that will change in the future. Also in the future we will be in a better position. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the thickness of the phone. So if you want to have wireless charging, you need to increase the thickness of the phone. And I know people will say, okay, but there are phones out there that are very thin with wireless charging, but I will say, but they are not easily repairable. And that's, again, a choice, right? Do you keep the high degree of repairability that people can just change a battery at home? Or do you bring things like wireless charging? If you would look at the phone from the edge, right? And then you would see like all the layers that are there. Of course, the display plays a role, the battery plays a role, but also like how things stack up to make them repairable also has a role. And then on top of that, we would have wireless charging. And also like what I want to say is that the thickness of the phone is very key for the size of the battery as well. At this point of time, we have chosen not to bring wireless charging with Generation 6. That does not mean that we will not do it in the future. So we wanted to, again, stay competitive in how the phone looks and not bring a feature that, though we know is important, we don't think is that important at this point for us and for our customers. As I said, doesn't mean that we will not do it in the future, right?
Are there plans? Okay.
Well, I can be clear. I mean, you can record this. I can be clear that there's no plans for Generation 6. That would be too difficult.
Whatever is coming 2027.
But we will need to make choices, right? So, like the things that I've just mentioned, they will still be there, right? There will still be a battery, there will still be a screen, and there will still be a wish to make a phone that is as repairable as possible. So, how this all plays together is difficult. And if we want to stay in a thickness that is, I would say, good, like 9.6 we have now with Generation 6, then we need to make another choice.
So, the last question we keep receiving is, why is there no headphone jack?
A phone is a very tightly integrated electronic product, right? Where every cubic millimeter needs to have a function, right? And needs to have a function that contributes to the value of the product. I am sure like a lot of people would want to have a mini jack connector, but also a lot of people want to have a bigger battery. I'm now putting it super simplistic. It's not this simple, right? There's many other things that come into place, but it's these kind of choices that you need to make in the end.
And most of the people now is going wireless. So I think we focus more in the Bluetooth and what most of the people is going to use, but still offering connectivity via wire.
There's even headphones in the market that have, instead of a mini jack connector, has a USB-C connector. So that's part of the evolution in the industry where we cannot stay behind, I would say, while making sure that people that want to use a mini jack connector can do that, right? Actually, we specifically price the adapter, the USB-C adapter that we have, pretty low because we know that some people really want to have that option, and then we facilitate that option, I think, quite easily.
We asked Miguel one final question, but before I show you his answer, I want to tell you about the 2 other videos that we made in this series. One of them is about the secrets of the software, like where does this wallpaper come from? And the other video is a deep dive into the supply chain of the Fairphone and how we're changing the industry to be fairer for people and the planet. So make sure to subscribe and don't miss it. Thank you for watching. And this is the last question we asked Miguel.
If you could describe the Fairphone in one word, what would it be?
Team effort.
That's 2 words.
What would it be? Complex? No, I like it. Inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome.